So, good morning, Robert.
Morning. Hi, Helgi.
Hi. How are you?
Yeah, good. Just recovering from the flu, but otherwise in
Yeah.
good health. Can't complain. How about you?
Okay. I'm great, thank you. It was a bit busy the beginning of the year. Got a lot of stuff coming in from people asking stuff about the videos I make. So
Yeah,
I made
nice.
some new connections, and so there's a lot of videos in the pipeline. So
Cool. Good. Good stuff.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So can you give us a short introduction about you?
Yeah. So I'm a videographer from Wales. Currently living in Berlin. I've been in Berlin for
Hmm.
nearly 10 years now. Live here with my wife and my two kids. Um, and yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say. I love bikes. Just have been into bikes all my life, and
Uh-huh.
I guess that's why we're here to talk about bikes. So.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. What was the first time you came across a bullet?
Well, I mean, being in Berlin, you see cargo bikes everywhere. And like I said, I've been in Berlin for nearly 10 years now. And obviously, being into bikes, you're always looking around, sort of seeing what other people are riding. And I'd seen them before, but it never really registered as something that I should, I should buy or try. But then we went to the collective bike show in Berlin, the Motorwerk exhibition hall in Berlin in 2020. Um,
Hmm.
and I think Velogut had a stall there, and they had all the Bullets you could try and all the other cargo bikes. Because I'd seen the Bullitt the most around and about, I thought, okay, I'll give one a go. Um, and then immediately was hooked. Within 5 minutes, had decided, right, I'm buying a Bullitt. I don't care how, but I need one of these things in my life. Um, so I tried it on my own first. There was like a little test track, did a few laps, and then I put my daughter in the front, and she loved it as well, and that sealed the deal. And yeah, from that moment on, I was just trying to think, okay, how can I figure this one out? How can I afford to get one? How can I get one into my life? But yeah, it was the collective bike show in 2020 in Berlin. It was the first time I rode one. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And when did you bought your first one?
Yeah. So after the collective bike show, I did as much research as I could. I've joined all the Facebook groups and all the the forums and chat groups and stuff about bullets. Um, and then it was on the Bullitt Universal Owners Club Facebook page. Someone in Nordrhein-Westfalen, which is totally the other side of Germany, posted an e-Bullitt for sale for like a really low price. And I messaged him straight away. And I said, "Oh, is there any chance that you're ever in Berlin or anything like this?" And he's like, "No, but you could maybe catch the train here and all this kind of stuff." I was like, "Oh, let me just figure this out for 5 minutes and then I'll call you. I'll call you," because it was like a really low price with all the accessories he had as well. Um, and then like we figured it out. And I was like, "Okay, I'll drive there. It'll fit in the car." And then that was that. I drove down then to Nordrhein-Westfalen. I think 3 days later, like I was sure that the guy was going to sell the bike to someone else because the price he said to me was like so ridiculously low, and it was worth about €1,000 more. Um,
Okay.
but he was a physiotherapist who had it for 4 years, and he bought it on his company, and then after some time it was a tax write-off. So he was like, "No, I just want a quick sale. I just want it gone. I don't want to mess about with people trying to haggle or any of this stuff." So I
Yeah,
went there with the cash, I gave it to him, and was just amazed that he gave me all the stuff that he gave me with it, and that was it. That was my first Bullet then.
yeah. Okay. So, and do you still own it, or
Yep, yep,
yeah, you still have it?
yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
and is the bullet like your daily ride when you go out and about Berlin, or do you still, yeah, probably you still have to use a car also to get around with all your video equipment and stuff?
I've used the Bullet a few times for work. But like sometimes when you've got like a video shoot that's on the other side of Germany, yeah, of course you take the car.
Yeah.
Um, but I try and use the car as little as possible, especially now we've got the bullets. So that was the first bullet I bought. I've got the second one as well, which is the pink one, but I'm sure we'll get onto that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I try to mix it up. If I'm taking the kids to Keto or school, I'll take the e-Bullet. But if I'm doing anything else, I'll take the pink one, which doesn't have a motor. Um, I try not to use the car in Berlin at all if I can help it. It's not an amazing city to drive around, especially considering that there's like, in my opinion, pretty good bike infrastructure here. And I've been riding all my life, so I feel like I'm quite a confident cyclist, so I'm not too phased about traffic or busy intersections or any of this kind of stuff. So I try and use the Bullitt as my daily ride as much as possible. I mean, I've got another city bike, but since I got the Bullitts, that's basically sat in the cellar for the last sort of 3 years. So yeah, Bullitts, like 98% of the time are my daily rides, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, and do you have any connection with other Bullitt riders in Berlin? Because I like, for example, I interviewed Cry a few months ago, and he says,
I follow him on Instagram,
I see a lot of other Bullittiers driving around the city, but there's no really connection or like a Bullitt community in Berlin.
Yeah, I remember watching that in his interview, and I was quite surprised because I feel like there is a community, like especially around the racing. There's like it's not a huge community, but in my opinion, but there's like some really motivated people who are really keen to race, but also to share information about the Bullitts and all this kind of stuff. But I think in the last year or so, I've really noticed A, more cargo bikes in the city, and B, a lot more Bullitts. It's almost like you can tell when all the shops get a delivery of Bullitts, because all of a sudden there's like loads of brand new Bullitts sort of like riding through the parks with dogs in them and kids in them and stuff. And it's amazing to see, it really is. But yeah, I'd say there is a community, like I say, especially around the racing. But also in like the Facebook groups and stuff is, I think there's a Facebook group called Bullitt Riders Germany, and there's quite a few people from Berlin there, and you quite often see pictures of them. They've all met up in somewhere like Tempelhofer Feld or some of the other big parks. So I think it depends where you are in the city as well. I'm up in the suburbs, sort of in the north, outside of the S-Bahn ring. So some people might say I'm probably not even in the city, but like, so for me, I'm kind of riding in and out more. I'm not riding so much around the city. And where I am, it's really like sort of suburbia full of families. So you see a lot of cargo bikes and it's just people on their way and you give a wave. But there's like where I am, there's not so much, oh, let's meet up and just like talk about Bullitts and cargo bikes, you know. But yeah, I'd say for sure there's a scene here. Maybe I'll have to get in touch with Cry and take him to
I
the
think
races.
he would like to he would like to start up some kind of Bullitt group to do stuff together.
Yeah. Well, we should do it. We should do it.
Yeah. Okay. You tell me that you get around with your Bullitt in and around Berlin, but have you already used your Bullitt also to like go on a bicycle vacation?
No, not yet. If I say it publicly, then I kind of calling myself out and I have to do it. So I've got this weird idea in my head that I'm going to ride one day from Berlin to Wales to visit my family, but that's something like 1,400 kilometers and then like an overnight ferry crossing as well. And the longest ride I've ever done in my whole life on a road bike was 130 kilometers. So I don't know why I suddenly think I can ride 1,400 kilometers across Europe. But I mean, that's...
Well, if you take your time. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing. I'm thinking, well, how many kilometers could I ride in a day at a slow pace? Is it like 100, 200? And then you try and break it down, and you think it's going to take at least a week. And then do I have to ride back as well for another 1,400 kilometers, or do I get a lift? But so, I mean, that's one idea I've had, and I guess I've said it publicly now, so I've got to do it at some point. But otherwise, no, normally it's more like day trips. Like there's a lot of lakes around in Berlin, and especially because we're quite close to the edge of the city, it's easy for us to head up north and put the kids in and head to a lake, and obviously put everything you need in there. So in terms of like leisure trips that aren't like, you know, commuting or jobs with the bike, it's more like day trips up to visit family, like around the edge of Berlin, or go to lakes or something like this. But I've seen people do a lot of touring on Bullitts, and it's kind of, like I say, it's inspired me to do this long trip. So at some point I will do it, but I'm not sure when.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So so one of my standard questions I always ask is, can you tell me what was the most special or most heavy cargo you ever hauled on your Bullitt or one of your Bullitts?
I've had lots of weird stuff that I thought, like when I got a cargo bike, I never ever thought I'd be transporting. So, for example, we've got a small Kleingarten, and it had like a load of rubbish on it when we first got it, and it also had like a portaloo, like those festival toilets. Had one of those in there, and I remember like cutting that up and then putting that on the Bullitt and taking that to the recycling place. So that was something that you never think, okay, I'm going to have like a portable toilet on my bike one day. And then I've done things like fridges, like long ladders. What else? I've had a swimming pool, obviously all like packaged up, but still like a swimming pool on there. I've had like trampolines. Lots of weird random things like this that you just never expect that you'd transport on a bike. And I always try and figure out a way to use the bike instead of the car. I mean, yeah, it might be slower, but it's more fun and it just like feels better than just thinking, oh, just take the car, So yeah, lots of weird things. There's some photos that I'm sure you'll show, but off the top of my head, it's like that portable toilet was the one that was. I remember cycling down the street thinking, "Okay, this is even for me. This is a bit of a. This is weird, yeah."
Okay, good. So I think most people now heard already that you talked about two Bullits. So you own two Bullits.
Yeah.
The first one is the one you bought from the
chap in Nordrhein-Westfalen. Yeah, the black one. That's the e-Bullitt.
That's an e-Bullitt. Yeah. And then afterwards you bought a second one, and that's the one we are also going to have a closer look at. So can you tell me a bit about the history and how you came by the bike?
Sure. So the plan was always that I would get one without a motor, and then the first one I got did have a motor. Obviously, it was a crazy price. I was like, okay, doesn't matter, I'll buy it. But then it was always at the back of my mind, I still want one without a motor because. Also, that first collective bike show is when I first discovered cargo bike racing, and I watched it, and it looked like so much fun. And I used to race mountain bikes before, so I was like, I want to get involved. And there is an e-bike class, and then obviously I got the e-bike, and I did the first couple of races in the e-bike class. And I came second in the first race, and I won the second race. I was like, okay, this is fun, but the non-e-bike class is faster and more competitive. So I was like, okay, that seals it. I'm going to get one without a motor, and it's going to be my race bike. And then I was on the Bullitt Universal Owners Club again. It's a great place for finding Bullits to buy, obviously. And one of the admins had advertised his Miss Bullitt, like pink Bullitt with the Saint group set. And obviously I've done a load of research at this point, and obviously been into them for a few years, and like know that the Saint group set was limited edition and that they don't produce them in a pink color anymore and all this kind of stuff. I was thinking, like, oh, shall I not? And it was like, it's quite expensive, but I was like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'll message the guy. So I messaged him, and he's like, yeah, well, the first person who comes to Denmark and picks it up and gives me the cash in hand is the one who takes it away. So I'm in Berlin, and he was in Aarhus in Denmark. Maybe I said that wrong. Aarhus. And he owns the Velopack courier company.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well that's a 13-hour drive there and back. Do I really want to do that? And I thought, no, I'm going to do it. So I transferred the money, drove up, got the bike. I just immediately fell in love and was like so happy with it from the outset, and drove it home, and then basically just broke the wheels off it. So
yeah, and you still have it. So
still have it, yeah.
So, and for how long do you have it now? The
I bought it in May last year.
Okay.
I think it was May. Yeah, May last year was when I drove up to get it.
So it's quite recent. Yeah. So, but the bike has already some age. I think it's.
I think it's a 2018 model.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they used it for couriering. But I think not as much as their others. I think this one somehow had some kind of special place in their hearts also, so they didn't use it as much. Because I saw some of the other courier bikes that were there. I went to Velopack to pick it up, and they looked more like, as you'd expect the courier bike to look, very, very used.
Really used.
Yeah.
So, and did he give you any reason why he sold Miss Bullitt or wanted to sell it?
I can't remember what he said now. I think I saw the bike and just immediately fell in love and was just like,
Yeah.
oh, you know. Um,
And everything disappeared around you.
exactly, yeah. Just everything was
Yeah.
just sort of like people sort of in the distance. Um, I think he had it set up as an e-bike with a front motor, like a front hub motor, and I think they were just updating their fleet or something. Maybe I'm totally wrong. Like maybe he'll chip in and say at some point in the comments, but
Yeah.
I think they were updating their fleet or something like this, and that was the one that had to go. So
Had to go. Yeah.
I guess that one was worth the most with the Saint group set, and obviously being an out of production color, so probably made sense for them to sell that one. But I think that was the reason. I'm not sure exactly, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So Robert, now we'll have a look at the bike in more detail. So we'll start at the front of the bike, and you already talked about the Saint fork. So can you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, so it's the Saint group set bike with the limited edition fork there with the bolt through axle,
Mm-hmm.
which coming from like a mountain biking background, it just sort of appeals to me because obviously I'm familiar with the Shimano group sets and the Saint being the main sort of gravity sort of downhill group set. Obviously, I just find that cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got the Saint fork there with the 20mm bolt through axle, which is a stiffer front end, and technically, I guess, is more precise and tracks better. But I just think it's cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. And what about the tires that are on the bike?
They are. Oh, I've forgotten. I think the Schwalbe Marathon Supremes,
Mm-hmm.
which I think also are no longer produced in a 20-inch version, but they do a 26.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. Well, you can have
Yeah,
we
look
can
it
have a
up,
look afterwards, and then we can put it in the comments or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anything special about the brakes that are? on the
Yeah.
bike?
Also, the Saint brakes, 4-piston sort of downhill mountain bike style calipers, and then you've got the Ice Tech rotors, the Ice Tech pads. I see a lot of comments in the owners' club saying, "Oh, you don't need a 200mm disc, you don't need 4-pot calipers." But I mean, in my opinion, if you're carrying like heavy loads, quite often, you know, you don't want to overheat and overload the brakes. I mean, obviously
Yeah.
Berlin is very flat, so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to
Yeah.
be riding
But
down
and
any long hills. But I think like also it comes into like modulation and brake feel. Obviously, like I've been riding mountain bikes all my life, so I'm quite particular about how I like my brakes to feel, and yeah, so for me it's a case of more modulation and feel, and then also sometimes when you do have a really heavy load and someone pulls
Yeah.
out in front of you, which happens all the time in a city, you know, you want to know that you're going to stop. So
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's why I'm a fan of big brakes and
Yeah.
4-piston calipers. Yeah,
Yeah. But and they look cool. It's
of course, yeah, they
nice.
look cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The connection of the steering rod, I think.
Yeah, there's the inner hole and the outer hole club, right? I'm in the outer hole
Yeah.
club. I haven't tried the inner hole yet, but I haven't felt the need to. I don't feel like I need the steering to be any quicker than it is. But maybe I'll try it one day.
Yeah.
See what it's like.
Yeah. I also ride outer hole and didn't try it yet, but
Yeah.
we'll see. And it's the front hub.
Yeah, that's the Saint hub there. So we've got Saint hubs front and rear as well, which is the one thing that I would like to change on the bike. I mean, I like the Saint hubs, and I want to keep them because it's the Saint group set. But the one thing I'd like to do on this bike is put a dynamo on it for the lights, because I quite often ride at night. But I remember talking to Stefan at Velogut about it, because he also has the same fork and hub, and he said that there's no 20mm bolt through dynamo hub that fits this hub dimension or something like this. So it's
Okay.
like, okay, well, I'll stick with battery lights for now. But that's the only thing that is a bit of a not a letdown, because obviously like for me, Saint is the pinnacle of group sets and hubs and all this kind of stuff. But is the one thing that I would somehow like to integrate is a dynamo light setup, because changing batteries in lights is kind of a pain, or like recharging like rechargeable lights all the time is a bit annoying, especially when you've forgotten to do it and then you run out of light halfway through a journey or something. Like, so, yeah.
Okay. And then we are at the
rear,
the rear of the bike.
Yes, it's the same brake again with the Icetec rotor and the pads. But it's 180 mil on the rear, the rotor. I don't think you can put a 200 in the rear, can you, on a Bullitt? From my research, it seems I think 180 is the biggest.
Yeah. Okay. Then we have the handlebar. It's quite minimalistic, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one sort of semi-interesting thing to note there is that I've got the TRP slate brake levers instead of the Saint ones. That was something that the previous owner did because they were using the bike as like a courier bike. They were like, obviously messenger riding and couriering is quite. Oh, camera just did something weird there. Courier and messengering is quite intense on bikes, so they went through the same brake levers quite quickly. They said that there was they started leaking quite quickly, or they had a problem with them, so they put these slate brake levers on, and they said since then it's just not been a problem. They've been fine for me also, so I don't have any plans to change them. I think that's one thing else I'd maybe do in the future, is put some Saint brake levers back on, but I'm not in any rush to do that.
No.
But yeah, otherwise, I've got my shifter there, so I've got a 1x10 gear system, so just like one shifter. I've got my bell, obviously super important in the city, and my Garmin. I guess that's the only non-standard part that you'd have, I guess. But yeah, I like it being quite minimal, especially with the e-bike Bullitt that I have, just having cables coming out of every possible place, it seems. I like to try and keep this one fairly minimal.
As clean as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And then here we see the group from the side, and the crank and the pedals. Can you tell us a bit about the pedals and the cranks?
The pedals there are DMR V12 pedals. I put those on all my bikes, apart from my gravel bike, which has clippers pedals. Again, that's another thing from my mountain bike days and past. Like, I always really liked DMR pedals coming from the UK. And like, my feet are just really used to how they feel, so just put them on any bike that I need pedals. I put some DMR pedals on, and then like I say, there's the Saint cranks, which I think again just look super cool. Obviously they're stiffer as well. I'm quite a big guy, so I like to think I can put out a bit of power, so I'm not going to lose any power through flexi cranks or drivetrain. And then the short cage rear mech and the sort of not huge range cassette, which is good, because then obviously Berlin's really flat, so you can always find a good cadence. You're not there's no big jumps between the gears on a wider range cassette, so it's nice when you can always just find a nice cadence. I think I'm at a 38 tooth ring there on the front, which isn't that big. I'm quite often sort of down at the smaller end of the block on the rear, but I couldn't sprint out the biggest gear. That would be sort of like 40 plus kilometers an hour. So I'll just leave it with a 38 for now. But yeah, like I say, I just really love the Saint group set. It shifts really well. And like I say, with the history of the mountain biking and stuff, I just think it's a really cool group set.
Yeah. Okay. So do you do your maintenance on your bikes yourself, or do you have a good bike shop in the neighborhood?
I do everything myself apart from wheels. Wheels is something that is, I don't know, it seems like some weird magic to me. It's like, well, there's tension in all different places. So I do everything apart from wheels, but there's a good bike shop around the corner that sorts me out for wheels. Always been working on my own bikes. And I couldn't imagine it another way, to be honest. I've got, I think, 8 bikes in total. And if I had to take them in for a service every time, then, I'd be, A, be broke, and B, like, my bikes they'd never be here, learn to do as much as I could on my own. So, save a bit of money and time.
Yeah. Okay. It's more like a detailed shot of the derailleur cage.
Yeah, I could have cleaned it a bit more, really, couldn't I? And that's the other thing. It's got you've got a clutch on the rear mech here as well, which I find also really cool. I mean, yeah, okay, we're in a city mostly, but there's still like curbs and stuff. You're jumping up and down, and you know, some of the bike lanes are like really bumpy, or they've got like tree roots growing through and stuff, and you know, it's a really horrible noise when the chain's clattering against the frame, especially like such a big frame like the Bullitt. So I like having the clutch on the rear mech there is also really cool. I think stopping that chain hitting the frame too much, and also it protects the frame a little bit as well. So that's a cool thing from the mech, I think.
And we see detail on the pedal.
Yeah, I always do this mistake with the DML pedals. That's the one thing I do, is I always buy them in black, but then the paint always comes off almost straight away, and I think I should just get them in silver, and then there's not a problem. But I always buy them in black because I think they look the best, and then obviously they end up looking really scruffy really quickly. But yeah.
See an overview of the load area. So you use a Farrer bowl, I see.
Yeah, I've got a Farrer bowl, which the guy who I bought my first Bullitt off gave me. But he also gave me the BBX side panels. So on my black Bullitt, I've got the BBX side panels, but obviously on this one there, you see I've got the Farrer bowl. I'm trying to keep this one as light as possible, and then do all like the heavy stuff on my e-Bullitt. So the Farrer bowl here is perfect for that. But I originally had it without a board on the bottom. But what I found is anytime I put anything in the bowl, it would go between the frame spars, and then it would kind of then also pull the bowl down as well, which was like really quite annoying. So in the end, I had to put a board on, and I think I got the Rad 3 board, because I've got the honeycomb board on my black Bullitt, but I wanted to try and go as light as possible. So I ended up with the Rad 3 board, which they claim is like a 900 grams lighter than the honeycomb board. So I went with that. And then since then, the bowl is perfect, and like obviously nothing falls down, and the bowl doesn't fall down either. So yeah, I would recommend putting a board or something underneath if you're going to use the Farrer bowl, and put something underneath it as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
we can see the bike without the Farrer bowl.
Yeah, so that's the board I've got, and I've left it open on the front. The idea being that if I'm ever just totally empty, I will take the Farrer bowl off and just fold it up and put it on the board. But like, that's a lot of faff, so I never do that. But I think I might put the front part on as well. When I got the board, it came with the front part and the bottom as well. That's one thing. Sometimes if you have something quite long that is like sitting against the front, close to the wheel, the Farrer bowl is obviously flexible, so it sometimes like hits the front wheel, and you can feel it when you're steering sometimes. So I might put that board on the front, especially for racing, because you're never quite sure what cargo you're going to get. But yeah, we'll see. I'll probably do that soon, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
And then this shot here, you can see that there's scratches on the front. And the original owner from Velopack, he's actually quite good friends with Hans Fo, obviously from Larry versus Harry. And they have quite a close relationship. And Hans is alleged, this is all alleged, I can't confirm or deny any of these things being true. But apparently the original owner was testing a prototype of a big metal box for Larry versus Harry on his fleet, and he said this was like the first prototype that they had for the box caused these scratches, and then because of that, they then made a change to the box with either putting some kind of like cushioning or pads or something on the front where it touches the frame. So that's where those scratches came from. I find that quite an interesting detail for for the Larry versus Harry history there. But like I say, I can't confirm or deny whether that's totally true.
Well, we'll ask.
We can ask.
I'll send them a little message and ask if they can tell us a bit more about it, if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have the.
Yeah, so we've got the feet there, and I prefer these. These are the feet that you put on the bottom of like some crutches or a walker or something like this,
Yeah.
because they have this like about an extra centimeters worth of height,
Mm-hmm.
and I find with the standard feet um, that both wheels are on the floor when it's on the stand fully, and
Mm-hmm.
that's okay. Um, but also that the standard ones, they're quite hard plastic. So if there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing in the bike and you've got it on the stand, I like to get on the bike and then just sort of like roll off the stand and then
Mm-hmm.
ride off. But the
Yeah.
hard plastic of the original feet sort of just makes the stand sort of scrape along the floor instead of
Yeah. Yeah.
flip
So it
up.
doesn't go in, but yeah, it
Yeah.
stays. Yeah.
But with these, the crutch feet, they're much softer, so they don't last as
Mm-hmm.
long. But I mean, I've had a set on my e-bike now for 3,500 kilometers, and it's still fine. Um,
Okay.
they grip more, so it's quite easy to just sort of
Mm-hmm.
roll off the stand. And also when you're loading up, sometimes if you're like not on perfectly level ground and you're on the original feet, because they're hard plastic and they move a little bit sometimes, the bike can move
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, and that just doesn't happen
Yeah.
with these. So
No.
I think they're like
Okay.
€5 or €6 from anywhere online, but
Uh-huh.
that's something I like. If I got a new Bullitt, I would immediately change to those straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
that's
That's
my
a good tip.
my
Yeah.
little tip. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And here we see the handlebar from above with your Garmin on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the handlebar and I forgotten
The stem.
the stem. Yeah, the stem. They're both from Thomson. I've seen.
Yeah, they're both from Thompson, and the seat post as well. That was also part of the same build kit.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't felt I need to change them. They feel good. They're a good width. I haven't measured them.
Mm-hmm.
Because normally I run 800 mil wide bars on like most of my bikes, which is obviously quite wide, but I'm also quite wide, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I think these are 780 or 760. I'm not sure. I'd have to measure. But
Yeah.
they don't feel quite as wide as the ones on my e-Bullitt. But that's also fine. Like, I've seen the standard bars on like quite a few Bullets around, and they seem like really narrow. I mean, I know it's more for like city riding and trying to get through like small gaps and stuff. But like I say, I kind of like obviously said it 100 times now about my mountain bike background, but that's always where I'm going with bike setup. It's like, how can I make it feel like a mountain bike? How can I make it feel like what I'm used to? And that's the same thing I've gone for here with the cargo bike setups as well.
Yeah. Okay. And then we can see here the spur bell. That's a bell most of the Bulletiers have.
Yeah, I think that's a cheap knockoff from somewhere
Okay.
online somewhere. I think I paid about €8 for it, but yeah, I mean it's a good bell. I mean, it's quite interesting in the city. Some bells, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but some bells sound really aggressive, like and like you press them and they sound really aggressive, and people almost are like, it's like almost offended, But I find this bell, it's almost got a polite ring to it. It's loud, and it's like it's quite high pitched, so they can hear it from quite far off. But people don't seem as shocked or offended by it as like as a big glong 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 or something. This is a nice ding, and but it's quite funny. When you hear some bells and they just sound aggressive, you're like, ooh. All right, calm down, But no, I like this bell. I like the sound of it, and it served me well on the bike lanes in Berlin. So it's a good one. And still running the easy up there. I only use it like maybe once a month, if that. But I'd kind of like to do that that easy up delete thing. Is it Evolution who do this kit where there's like a carbon or an aluminium steerer tube, and it gets rid of the easy up, and it like drops the weight of the bike by a kilo or something. Like I'd like to do that, but just that one time of the month where you need that easy up because you've got some really high cargo, or like you're carrying a fridge or a washing machine or something. You think, oh no, I'm glad I've still got this. But I do feel. I do feel there's like a bit of flex in it. You know, this is one part of the bike which I feel would really benefit from, like I say, like a solid steer tube. So maybe I will do that one day, that Volution kit. But yeah.
And then you have the saddle. It's the saddle stem is also from Thompson, and then you have a Brooks saddle.
Yeah, Brooks C17. This was another thing from the other Bullitt that I've got. Like, saddles were never really like a big thing for me. Like, I never really sort of invested too much time into thinking about which saddle to get. And then I got the other Bullitt, and it came with a Brooks C17 saddle. I was like, oh wow, this is super comfortable. Okay, all my bikes are now exactly like a ding. And then this bike came with a C15, which is a narrow version of the same saddle. And like, saddles obviously are so much dependent on, you know, your own personal fitment. You know, like, you know, how wide and everything needs to be and long and all this kind of stuff. But when I sat on that C17 for the first time, I was like, wow, okay, yeah. This is the saddle for me. So it's a bit of a shame to change like a Brooks saddle for another one. It's like, you know, quite a lot of money, but you know, I mean, I think contact points on a bike are really important because you know, they're the main contact you have with the bike, obviously. And then like mountain biking,
if you are going, sorry.
So like mountain biking, you kind of stood up a lot more, so it's not as important, but yeah, like city biking and like cargo bikes, you sat down a lot more, so it's kind of more important to have a nice, comfortable saddle, I think. So
and if you are going to do the long trip, then you'll need a good saddle.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not exactly sure what the front light is. It's just like a little battery-powered light which runs 2 AAAs, but the batteries last for ages and it's bright enough. So that's good. And then the rear is a Lazine something, which is like a USB rechargeable light. Like I say, that's the one part of the bike that I'll probably that I'm not really happy with. That I'll probably do some research into some other lighting solutions. But I mean, you know, they're legal and they work and they keep me safe at night. So that's it for now. Yeah, and I mean, also for racing, I like that you can just take them off, so you don't have any extra weight when you're racing. So yeah, maybe I'll look into some better lights. Maybe some folks in the comments can give me some suggestions what to look for.
Yeah, okay. And you also have like the rear mud flap on the
the fender extender. Yeah, the Farah fender extender. Yeah. Again, like, I was never really a big fan of mud guards and stuff. Before I moved to Berlin, kind of feel like they don't look that good. But you know, the first time you ride through the rain, you just think, okay, this is silly. Just get some mud guards and then just be done with it. So yeah, I got the full coverage mud guards, front and rear, and then the fender extender on the back. That was also on the bike when I got it, but you know, like I say, you ride through the rain once and just any help to not get covered in water. And then also all the dirt from the road gets kicked up as well. So yeah, it's definitely worth having,
Okay. So I think we covered most of the stuff on the bike. Is there still something? We forgot?
I mean, well, there's the color, obviously.
The pink.
It's quite funny, really. Like, quite a lot of people stop me, or like, you know, when you're at traffic lights, or you know, when you're just like hanging out outside somewhere, you're loading your stuff up, and people say, "Oh yeah, it's a great color for a girl." And I was like, "Well, I think it's just a great color." I mean, you know, quite a lot of people are like, "Wow, that's really pink," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's good, isn't it?" You know, but it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just almost like people don't expect to see it, but I think it's really cool. And the other thing is, as well, like, no driver can pull out in front of you and say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't see it." It's like, how can you miss like a huge bright pink bike like this? You know,
you can't miss that.
You can't miss it. And interestingly, actually, there's a guy literally just around the corner from me who also has a pink Bullitt. And I didn't notice that until I got this one. And then about a week later, I see this guy riding around on another one. I was like, has he got my? Oh wait, no, that's not mine. Oh, okay, interesting.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny.
There are some.
But yeah,
Yeah,
like,
we have. Yeah, sorry.
I've noticed that Larry versus Harry in their social media recently have posted a lot of pink bullets, and I'm wondering if they're going to re-release it or something. I kind of selfishly, I hope not, because it's kind of like a discontinued thing, and like I find it really cool. But yeah, I wonder if they're going to re-release the pink.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
Up till now, I don't think they have ever re-released some color from the past. But
Well, they've changed colours, haven't they? They went from
Yeah.
that sort of very green to this sort of more like khaki type green, haven't they?
Yeah.
And then they changed the yellow from the submarine to the bollocks, right?
Yeah.
And did the blue change as well? They did like a sort of, it was a darker blue. The first Bluebird, the Bluebird
Yeah.
721 was quite a darker one, and now the current Bluebird is a little bit brighter. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, I hope it stays like as it is. Being selfish, but I mean, if it gets more people on cargo bikes and they release a new color, then that's a win for me. So
Yeah. Okay. So I think we've done most of the bullets. So, and one final question: if you like, and I ask that every bulleteer I interview, if like money was no object, how would your ultimate bullet would be built or would look like?
I think it would be like very close to this. Like I remember the video you did with Itai recently, where you asked the same question, and he'd had this whole custom build, and he's like, "Well, this would be it." And I think this is very close to mine. The one thing, like if there was money no object, I think I would put that money into like development of accessories. So what I would really like is like some kind of quick release box, like a big box that you could fit like a few kids in. But all the box solutions, you have to like screw them down or something like this, So I would have, if money was no object, I'd figure out some way that you could just put a box on and just like flick a few catches or something, and then it was like safely mounted, and then you'd just be able to just as quickly just like flick a few switches and just take them off,
Yeah.
I think that would be my ultimate thing, but it would be on this bullet that I currently have. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. If you see in the forums, people do a lot of the DIY solutions for cargo bay solution stuff and things.
Yeah, I've thought about trying to do something. I feel like I'm handy enough to be able to do something, but it seems that you need some kind of anchor somewhere, which is always a weight thing. And like I say, I'm trying to keep this one as light as possible for when we go racing in the summer. So there's always some compromise there, but like something where you could just, like I say, literally just like put it in like a catch or a turn here or there, quick release thing, and then it's on there safely, because obviously that's another huge thing. It's got to be safe if you're putting kids and stuff in it. And then, like I say, just like a few catches, and then off it comes, and then then it's much lighter and without all this huge stuff again. So I guess effectively the ultimate bullet is like a combination of two, which is also what I've got. So I've got the e-bike for, like I call it my e-SUV, sort of like the school run type thing. It's got the motor, it's got the seat in it, it's got the hard sides and stuff, and then I've got the pink one for more like faster sort of just for me kind of thing.
Yeah, the personal, the sporty one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Robert, for telling us about your bike and a bit about yourself.
Thank you. And really enjoying the series. Really happy to be a part of it, and I hope it continues. And like
I
you said,
think you will be number 20, so around figure. Yeah.
And the first pink one, right? I think, and the first one.
And
the
the
same
first
group
pink
set.
one. Yes, indeed.
Cool. Okay. Good. Well, thank you very much. I really enjoy your content, and like I say, I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Great. Thanks.